Very glad to have this opportunity to talk about Krishna with you all. I can think of nothing better to do in life. And I hope you will feel the same also. Om Agana Timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshrun Militang Yena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadha Sivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here in this cowherd village of Gita Nagari, we can think of the remote cowherd village, Vrindavan Dham. We're going to go to Vrindavan Dham, and eventually we'll get to Mathura. As you may know, Vrindavan Dham is the abode of 100% sweetness. And then Mathura Dham is sweetness mixed with some awareness of Krishna's opulence. And Dwarka has much more awareness of Krishna's opulence and less sweetness. Look at it in terms of the phases of the moon. Vrindavan Dham is the full moon. Mathura Dham is one day before the full moon. And Dwarka Dham is 2 or 3 days before the full moon. So we're going to chapter 5 of the 10th canto, a chapter which you may not focus on too much. It describes Nanda Maharaj celebrating the Jata Karma festival, the festival of Krishna's birth, because Nanda Maharaj has no other thought than Krishna is my son. But that's different from what Vasudeva and Devaki think. So there's a mystery, a confidential mystery surrounding Krishna's birth. Of course, first of all, how does the unborn take birth? Queen Kunti wonders about that and exclaims about that. How can the unborn take birth? And even we, as tiny particles of the Supreme, we're unborn. But because we're identifying with the body, as the body rotates through countless cycles of repeated birth and death, we take different forms, different species, different locations. But we are unborn. But Krishna is the Supreme unborn. And Krishna never appears with a material body. This is the huge difference between the concoction of Mayavad notions and Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, where it's explained so clearly that Krishna can appear within the material world in a purely spiritual form without incurring the slightest touch of the material energy, of material contamination. The material energy is Krishna's energy. He doesn't come under the control of his own energy. One example we may see tomorrow, because I hear that rain is due tomorrow afternoon for 5 hours or so. A half an inch of rain. We don't like rain, but the plants love it, and they need it. And this is a farm, by the way, which has plants and animals which like rain. Human beings don't like rain because they think it spoils all their fun outdoors and makes for slow driving. Can't gun your engine on the highway when it's a downpour. But think of a rainbow. Do you see rainbows around here? Yeah. It looks like both ends of the rainbow are suspended on the earth, that both ends are touching the earth. But of course, if you try to find out where the rainbow is resting on the earth, You'll never find it. That's why people sing sentimental songs like Somewhere Over the Rainbow, Way Up High. The rainbow seems to be resting on the earth, but it is not. Similarly, Krishna seems to be a phenomenon of this world to those who are uneducated in spiritual science, to those who lack the spiritual qualifications to see Krishna. This is a very difficult point to understand for us. Not everyone, but for some. As I explain in Searching for Vedic India, Vedic knowledge is state-specific. That means, according to the purity of your consciousness, that determines what you can understand. So your behavior, your character, your integrity, all affect what you can understand. They all affect your cognitive processes. Or you say processes here. I have to speak American English. So, this sounds so outlandish to the person with mundane intelligence. What does it matter, my lifestyle, on what I can understand? I'm me. I've got a high IQ. I'm a postgraduate researcher. What is it? My personal behavior is my personal business. Doesn't affect my cognitive abilities. But Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam differ drastically. According to the level of purity of your consciousness, that determines what you can understand, even what you perceive. In Bhagavad Gita, what does Krishna say? From him, Matasmitir, Ganamapoanam Cha. From me, he says, come all knowledge, remembrance, and forgetfulness. That means Krishna controls your powers of remembering, even your powers of forgetting. So if you want to forget Krishna, as I often explain, you need his help. That's how tiny and powerless you are. You can't even get Krishna out of your hair without his help. And if you want to remember Krishna, you need his help also, because your consciousness is superseded by Krishna. But in the material energy, we have this feeling that we're independent, self-sufficient entities. Even though we're beat up lifetime after lifetime, just give us a few golden moments, a few seconds of apparent delight, and we think, well done, my life is successful. If we only understood how tiny and insignificant we are, it would be a humbling occasion. So Krishna controls your perception according to what he wants you to see, and what he wants you to see depends on what you are qualified to see. This sounds totally authoritarian, doesn't it? And it is. That's what it means, that there's Parameshwar, the supreme controller, the supreme Ishwar. That control extends even to governing what you can know, what you can forget, the knowledge you have. So what else does Krishna explain in Bhagavad Gita? Naham prakasha sarvasya yoga maya samavrita. He says bluntly, frankly, I am not manifest to everyone. I don't allow everyone to see me. I cover myself with my yoga maya potency. Krishna has an energy that blocks the perception of those who are not qualified to see him. Just think, any person with big managemental responsibilities in the corporate world, in the university world, has some kind of PA, personal assistant, some kind of secretary who vets all the persons who want to come and see the big chief. No, your business is not so important. Or no, you really have nothing serious to be considered. You don't need to see the big boss. Krishna has an energy that does that. That prevents those who are not qualified from seeing him and bothering him. This is personalism. So Krishna's energies sort out living entities into those who are qualified to see him and those who are not. So in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna explains, I'm not available in terms of vision of me to everyone. The fact is that when Krishna was present on this, when he was manifest, Krishna is always present. But his presence was manifest to the vision of everyone, qualified or not, 5,000 years ago. But very few could understand that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They didn't have the qualification to see that, although right before their eyes, there is Krishna. So this tells you something about perception. Now, there was no doubt that Krishna is powerful. There was no doubt about that. But most people thought he's the most powerful human being on the planet today. The members of the Yadu dynasty in which Krishna appeared, they thought he is Paramatma, the super soul. But practically no one understood. Very few understood. Krishna is Swayam Bhagavan, the ultimate source, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, from whom all incarnations descend. All expansions come from Krishna. Very few understood that. So the point is, something can be right in front of your eyes, but unless you're educated, you don't understand what you're looking at. Those of you educated in any kind of science, biology or physics or this or that, chemistry, you could be looking at something, some phenomenon, but unless your professor tells you what you're looking at, you don't know what you're looking at. You're studying biology. Okay, look through the microscope. What do you see on the slide? Unless you're taught, you don't recognize what you're looking at. This is why in bhakti, hearing is so important. Hearing knowledge informs your vision. But in this age of Kali, in the darkness of Kali, we are so proud of our vision. We even say, seeing is believing. I remember one song back in the 60s. I want a love I can see. That's the only kind of love that means a thing to me. I don't want the love you have to tell me about. That kind of love I could surely do without. I want a love I can see. Then it goes on. I want a love that I can feel. That's the only love I think is real. So this is perception in the age of Kali. Seeing and feeling. Seeing with the eyes, tactile sensations with the skin. That's reality. But in the world of bhakti, Srimad Bhagavatam, Bhagavad Gita, hearing is all important. Krishna comes to you through your ears. Why so much stress just on the eyes? You have 4 other senses. But no, seeing is believing. If I can't see it, I don't believe it. This is ignorance. There's so many things that unless you are taught with knowledge, you don't recognize what's right in front of you. So that was the case when Krishna was present. Very few understood his full stature, although everyone recognized abnormally powerful. Perhaps like in the sports world, people recognize this is the greatest sports person ever. What do they say, GOAT? Greatest of all time. That's what they thought about Krishna. Greatest of all time. No one's ever been like him. There's never been a human being like him. That's true, but Krishna was not a human being. He resembled a human being. So the more you become fascinated with the science of Krishna, the more blissful you become. Just like when you want to love someone, first you have to get to know the person. You have to know the science of the person that you're thinking to exchange affection with. What are the characteristics? What are the activities? What does the person like? So similarly, the process of getting to know Krishna, that is bhakti yoga, Krishna consciousness. So as I often explain, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is inviting you into the bhakti laboratory. Nowhere does he say, believe in me. Everywhere in Bhagavad Gita, you're given process. And the results are delineated. For those who follow the process. This is what you get. And for those who don't follow the process, this is what will also happen to you. To be a Krishna Bhakta, to be a devotee of Krishna means to inform yourself with knowledge and apply the knowledge. There are two things, jnana, wisdom, and vijnana, the application of the wisdom, or what I call applied spiritual technology. So here we have Krishna appearing as the son of Yashoda, and most confidentially, simultaneously as the son of Devaki and Mathura. You'll find this buried in the purports in the 10th canto and elucidated upon by previous acharyas. And Prabhupada talks about it also, of course, that actually Krishna appeared simultaneously from Yashoda and Devaki. But Yashoda Mai also had a daughter that was born right after Krishna appeared. Krishna appeared from her heart, and the daughter appeared from her womb. The daughter is the internal potency, Yogamaya, or Subhadra. So, how is it that Yashoda Mai didn't notice? She was too tired from the activity of childbirth to realize that she had given birth to a son and a daughter. So what happened? Simultaneously in Mathura, Devaki gives birth to Krishna, meaning Krishna, who is present everywhere, appears from her. He's already present. How did Krishna come from Vasudeva to Devaki? He appeared in the pure consciousness of Vasudeva and then transferred himself to the pure consciousness of Devaki. Who here can have children like that? Transferred himself from the pure consciousness of Vasudeva to the pure consciousness of Devaki. And what is the difficulty if Krishna does appear from her womb? He's everywhere anyway. He just makes his presence visible, manifest. So when Krishna appears from Devaki, he's four-armed to let Vasudeva and Devaki know, have no fear of Kamsa. It's me, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. I have four hands to let you know that I'm no ordinary human being. So from the very beginning, Vasudeva and Devaki knew he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who's appeared as our son. At the same time, they were feeling parental affection. So they are described as nearing the Vrindavan platform. They had recognition that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, combined with Vatsalya Prem, love of Krishna and parental love of Krishna. Whereas, as you know, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai in Vrindavan, they never thought that their son is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna didn't want them to think that way. Sometimes they would come close, start thinking, we've seen our little Krishna do many amazing things. I wonder who he actually is. And then Krishna would cover them with his yoga maya potency, his internal potency. No, don't think like that. Who's going to feed me when I'm hungry? Who's going to take care of me? I don't want to be treated as Supreme Personality of Godhead. I want to be hugged by my mother and loved by my girlfriends. So what happened? You know how Vasudeva took Krishna to Vrindavan out of fear of Kamsa. And Krishna had transformed himself into a two-handed form. He appeared with four hands and then changed to two hands at the request of Devaki, who was worried. Kamsa is waiting to kill the child. How do I hide a four-armed baby? It'll be hard to keep this hidden. So she asked Krishna, please change yourself into your two-handed form as a human, looking like a human being. And so Vasudeva carried Krishna out of the prison, across the Yamuna River to Vrindavan. Now, as he's crossing the river, what happens? Who knows? Huh? Krishna slipped out of his hands into the Yamuna River, which is storm-tossed. So Vasudeva panicked. But how could this happen? He was able to retrieve the newborn child. Why did this happen? It's Krishna increasing Vasudeva's love. When you're about to lose the most dearest thing to you, you become more attached. So Krishna is staging all this for more love. Krishna is expert at using any kind of situation to bring about more love. So that's why Krishna did that to Vasudeva. And then, as you know, Vasudeva arrives in Vrindavan, and Yashoda Mai is asleep, and Vasudeva exchanges the Krishna that he brought from Mathura, and he takes the daughter that was born to Yashoda. He doesn't see that Yashoda also had a son. And what's the technology for what happens, the technical detail? Vasudeva Krishna, the Krishna brought by Vasudeva, merged into the body, into the form of the original Krishna that appeared from Mother Yashoda. But Vasudeva he doesn't know that. So actually, the original Krishna, Swayam Bhagavan, is the son of Mother Yashoda. And in expansion, Vasudeva Krishna took birth from Vasudeva and Devaki. These are confidential details, in case you wanted to know. So now it's time to celebrate the birth ceremony. Nanda Maharaj is going to make an elaborate arrangement, more than you could ever conceive of, a festival like there's never been before. And he's going to ask the Brahmanas, first of all. Everything begins with the Brahmanas. He gives charity to the Brahmanas. So we'll look at texts 1 and 2. It's always enlivening to talk about Krishna's appearance. Janmashtami, of course, is next month, but I guess we'll give you a warm-up. Sri Shuka Uvacha, Nandas Twatmaja Utpane, Jatalado Bahamanaha, Ahuya Vipran Veda Gyan, Snata Shruchya Alankritaha, Vachayitva Swasyayanam, Jata Karmat Majasyavai, Karayam Asa Vidvat, Pitri Devart Chanam Tata. Shukadeva Goswami said, Nanda Maharaj was naturally very magnanimous, and when Lord Sri Krishna appeared as his son, he was overwhelmed by jubilation. Therefore, after bathing and purifying himself and dressing himself properly, he invited Brahmanas who knew how to recite Vedic mantras. After having these qualified Brahmanas recite auspicious Vedic hymns, he arranged to have the Vedic birth ceremony celebrated for his newborn child, according to the rules and regulations. And he also arranged for worship of the demigods and forefathers. So why, you might ask, is Nanda Maharaj worried about purification? Purification of himself, purification of the whole scene, the whole scenario. Why? He has the Supreme Pure appearing in his family. But this is Vrindavan sweetness. Nanda Maharaj is not thinking that I have the Supreme Pure in my home. He's thinking, I have my beloved son. Why is he thinking that way? Because that's what Krishna wants. Spontaneous love, uninhibited by awe and reverence. I often point out, you might think you would love to be worshipped all the time. Suppose glorifiers followed Nama Madhurya around all day. You are so great. You are so wonderful. Everything emanates from you. You'd like it at first. Oh, yeah, this is pretty nice. But you get tired of it. You just want to have some fun. Who can be my friend? Who can I have affectionate exchanges with? I often give the example. I heard of it directly myself, how one of the richest men in the world, Bill Gates, sometimes in Seattle puts on disguise. He disguises himself and goes out in the city just to be an ordinary guy and hang out with people without his identity being known. Because he gets tired of people treating him like one of the world's richest men, and you never know who your real friends are, and everyone's always financially calculating in terms of their relationship with him. So he just disguises himself and goes out to restaurants or pubs or whatever, bars you call them here, and hangs out without disclosing who he is. So you might think it would be so much fun to be worshipped all the time. At last, everyone's recognizing my glories. But it gets boring. You want some personal rasa exchange, some exchange of affectionate relationship. You know the example I give, I saw at the airport in Melbourne, Australia. I was waiting at the gate to board the plane, and there were about 3 other gates in the same area. So the seating facility, the seating area there were about 150 people seated, waiting for their particular gates for boarding. And I saw one well-dressed guy who's about 35 years old, well-dressed, casual attire, but obviously he had some money. And he had his wife, well-dressed also, early 30s. And they had a little child, 4 years old. And oblivious to all the 150 or so people around, the little girl stood in front of her father, pointed to the floor and said, "Down, Daddy, down." And the man threw himself on the floor, his arms up in the air, and then got back up, sat down in the chair. And again, the little girl, "Down, Daddy, down." And 150 people are watching this. And, you know, their heartstrings were being pulled, and oh, how nice. Ideal family life. So the man was relishing coming under the control of his daughter's affection. So why is it so difficult to understand for us that this is what Krishna wants? This point is explained in Chaitanya Charitamrita. Krishna says, affection for me made feeble by awe and reverence is not so attractive to me. I want to come under the control of my devotees' pure love. So I can see that in this man. Here he is, successful corporate type, waiting to board the plane with his family, and the little girl, 4-year-old girl, just in front of everyone. "Down, Daddy, down." And he throws himself on the floor with his arms up in the air. Oblivious, doesn't care that everyone's watching. He wants to come under the control of pure love. So where does that desire come from? It comes from Krishna. So Nanda Maharaj is not thinking, my son is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Krishna won't let him think that way. You might say, well, isn't that Krishna won't let him think that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead? Isn't that a violation of Nanda Maharaj's volition, his free will? But these are affairs of pure love. These are the highest levels of existence at the topmost portion of the spiritual world, beyond even Vaikuntha. These are Krishna's eternal associates. They're not conditioned souls. They're tasting the greatest ecstasy. Nanda Maharaj thinks, Krishna is my son, I have to protect him. How does Krishna need anyone's protection? But Nanda Maharaj is thinking like that. So he's tasting the greatest ecstasy while thinking himself to be an ordinary cowherd man. So he's calling for purification. I've got to purify myself. I've got to purify my house. So let's bring on the brahmanas. They'll recite mantras. What else will I do? He says, I'll arrange for worship of the demigods and forefathers. Now you might think, wait a minute, in bhakti, all worship is for Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Krishna specifically says in Bhagavad Gita, Kamais taistar hitagana prapadyantanya devata. Those who have distorted consciousness, ruined by lust, worship the devatas, the demigods. So what's Nanda Maharaj doing this for? And also, Krishna in Bhagavad Gita talks about those who worship the ancestors, how they really don't know what they're doing. But Nanda Maharaj is arranging for the worship of the demigods and forefathers, ancestors. Why? He's simply thinking, oh, for my son Krishna, to protect my son Krishna, anything. Worshipping demigods, sure. Worshipping ancestors, sure. All 100% to protect my Krishna. So he's being perfectly Krishna conscious. Yeah, whatever. Demigods, yes. Forefathers, yes. Brahmanas chanting mantras, sure. All for protecting my son Krishna. So in the purport, Srila Prabhupada explains that although Krishna appeared as the son of Devaki, Devaki and Vasudeva did not enjoy the Jata Karma, the festival of the birth ceremony. Instead, this ceremony was enjoyed by Nanda Maharaj, as stated here. So we understand how Krishna was born in the house of Yashoda and Nanda, just at simultaneously appearing as a son of Vasudeva and Devaki. But that's confidential knowledge. So don't feel inhibited to say that Krishna was born from Vasudeva and Devaki and then was transferred to Vrindavan. That's the normal way to explain it. But there are always these confidential details as you drill down. And so that's what Prabhupada will tell you in several purports, that actually Krishna appeared simultaneously from Devaki as well as from Yashoda. Now, here's an interesting point. Krishna is everywhere. Does that mean every time Krishna manifests his presence, there should be a jata karma, a birth ceremony? How does Lord Varaha appear? Who knows? From the nostril. Does that mean we should celebrate Krishna's birth ceremony because he appeared from the nostril of Lord Brahma? And what about when Parikshit Maharaj is in the womb and Ashvatthama is attacking the womb with a Brahmastra, localized nuclear weapon, to kill the last heir? So in the womb of Uttara, there's the unborn Parikshit, who manifests a presence inside the womb also. Krishna. So in that way you could say, well, Krishna is the son of Uttara also. He was in her womb. Of course, as we've already pointed out, Krishna is everywhere. He can make his presence visible or not as he desires. So what determines when there is a situation of Krishna's having a mother and father? When there is parental affection. That wasn't the case when Krishna is in the womb of Uttara, saving Parikshit from the Brahmastra weapon. That wasn't the case when Varahadev appears from the nostril of Lord Brahma. Everything depends on the rasa, the affection, in whatever particular flavor. Here's another interesting point I've been thinking about for some days. even what appears to be false can give rise to the highest truth. What's the example given? Krishna denying that he ate dirt. You know the Leela. Krishna's friends reported him to Mother Yashoda. He's eating dirt, he's eating dirt. And Krishna said, no, they're lying. And Mother Yashoda said, but even Balaram is saying that you ate dirt. No, they're all just angry at me that I won't play with them anymore. So Mother Yashoda said, all right, open your mouth and we'll see. And she saw the entire cosmic manifestation. So actually, Krishna wasn't lying. In the highest sense, he was telling the truth. I didn't eat dirt. I've already got the dirt of millions of universes inside me. So let us understand that the fortune of Nanda Maharaj, with his pure parental affection, was superior to that of Vasudeva, with Vasudev's conception of Krishna's powers. There's a famous verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th canto. Nanda kim akarod Brahman, Shreya evam mahodayam, Yashoda cha mahabhaga, Papa yasya stanam hari. Brahman. Prabhupada Maharaj is addressing Shukadeva Goswami. Oh, Brahmana, how, what did Yashoda and Nanda do to attain such a perfection in ecstatic love of having Krishna as their son and having Krishna sucking the breast milk of Mother Yashoda? What's going on here? What's going on is pure parental love with no awareness of Krishna's opulence, no awe and reverence. So let's go back to the Brahmanas. We've heard about Vasudeva anxious to protect his son, and that's why he brought Krishna from Mathura to Vrindavan and exchanged, he thought. Is Krishna afraid? No, Krishna's giving a chance to Vasudeva to heighten his and deepen his relationship. Even though this is a little difficult to understand, even though Vasudeva knows that his son is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he still has parental affection. So he's mixed. Whereas always remember, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda, they're pure Vrindavan consciousness. He's our son, we have to feed him, we have to care for him. And so as we were saying, where are the Brahmanas? I want the Brahmanas to recite mantras to protect my son. Krishna needs Brahmanas to recite mantras for his protection. I want to arrange purification for my son. But your son is the supreme pure. And why does Nanda Maharaj need to appeal and propitiate, appease demigods, ancestors? He's thinking, all for the protection of my son. He's 100%, as we said, 100% Krishna conscious. So now what does he do? This is going to be a bit unbelievable. Nanda Maharaj gave 2 million cows completely decorated with cloth and jewels in charity to the Brahmanas. Now, immediately our Kali Yuga intelligence tells us, wait a minute now, 2 million cows? You can walk around here and you'll see close to 100 cows. 2 million? But this is Vrindavan Dham. It's not an ordinary tract of land. It's the embassy of the spiritual world within the material world. So Vrindavan Dham expands and contracts according to Krishna's desires for his pastimes. I was explaining in Atlanta how sometimes the Krishna Leelas describe that Krishna is way over on the other side of the Braj Mandal. And yet he has to get back to his home by evening for dinner, for bathing, and then for sneaking out at night for nighttime activities. How does he get from the far end of Braj Mandal all the way back to where he's staying in the home of Yashoda and Nanda? How does he do that? It doesn't seem feasible. The distance to be covered in such a short time. So a devotee asked Srila Prabhupada, how does Krishna cover that huge distance from one far edge of Braj Mandal all the way to where he stays? Srila Prabhupada replies, he takes big steps. How do you measure Krishna's steps? How do you measure Vrindavan Dham? They're spiritual phenomena that are not governed by laws of time and space. So yes, Nanda Maharaj can accommodate 2 million cows to give away. That means he still had more for himself, but he gave away 2 million. And how were the cows decorated? Would we ever be able to do that here? The cows had hooves that were silver plated and horns that were gold plated. Each cow was completely decorated with cloth and jewels. This is what Nanda Maharaj is giving away happily. You see, Nanda Maharaj wasn't supposed to have a son. He's too old. So he's also overjoyed because of that. I got a son in my old age. He had no son. And what a son he had. So what else did he give besides 2 million cows? Sometimes you wonder, is the Bhagavatam just exaggerating or just hyping things up? Well, you look in the Sanskrit, Niyute, 2 million, Pradat, gave in charity. Obviously, we're dealing with a dimension that's far beyond what human beings deal with in this darkness of the age of Kali. How there can be that much opulence just by taking care of cows? It sounds like fantasy. We know we should take care of cows because cows are Krishna's his pets, and he says, Krishna Gorakshavanijam Vaishya Karma Swabhavajam. Taking care of the cows and the land, that is the basis of genuine economics. You see, in Vedic civilization, which is Varnashram Dharma, the 4 ashramas, the 4 occupational duties, the Varnas, only a small segment of the society is engaged in economic affairs. Only the Vaishyas, those in the occupational order of growing food, trading, they're the only ones doing economics. No one else is. And what do you have today? Everyone is scrambling for economics. Economic growth goes on and on and on. It's the only principle that's practically unquestionable. It's like the Vishuddha Sattva principle, the principle of pure, unquestioned goodness. Whether you are this religion or that religion, there must be economic growth. Whether you're this political party, that political party, there must be economic growth. Whether you're rich, there must be economic growth. Poor, there must be economic growth. It's the one thing in this darkness of the age of Kali that everyone agrees is the principle you don't challenge. Whether you're concerned about the rising inequality of the distribution of wealth, still, there should be economic growth. Whether you're not concerned about it at all, there should be economic growth. It's the one unquestionable principle. The economy must grow and grow and grow. And the more the economy grows, the easier it is to solve any problem of the distribution of wealth. There'll be more for everyone. Rising tide raises all boats. Now they're finding out the rising tide raises only the yachts. The other boats are left high and dry. So this is the Kali Yuga principle. Economic growth is the everything. Politicians promise, vote for me, and you keep us in power, and the economy will grow. That is the unquestioned principle. But as I said, in Vedic culture, only a segment of society is involved in economic activities. And the purpose of the whole social arrangement is on spiritual development. But this economic growth is driving everyone mad. No one knows how to live simply. Yet the opulence of Nanda Maharaj's Vrindavan is based all on agriculture, cow protection. It seems such a fantasy. So this chapter requires some thought. There are some elements in it that are challenging our preconceptions. How can human beings prosper just by taking care of cows and the land? And you're going to hear verses about the opulence of Nanda Maharaj's village. Opulent, they're all opulently dressed. Their houses were opulent. All from agriculture and cow protection. There's one famous economic treatise by a Harvard professor. It's called The Moral Necessity of Economic Growth. And there, in this famous treatise, published maybe 15 years ago, there it stated that constant, ceaseless economic growth is necessary so that people will behave properly. When people have increasing money, they're civil in their dealings. They're well-mannered. But when the money supply tightens up, then you see people get nasty, treat each other badly. So the conclusion of this economist, Friedman, is that, and it's a famous treatise, it's not a crank publication, very famous, that in order to keep society civil and stable, we must have economic growth. Otherwise, you're going to see the bad, lower self of human beings come to the fore. So economic growth is a moral necessity. In other words, economic growth creates morality. And without it, there's no morality. So never mind that we're destroying the earth. Never mind that human beings are driving themselves mad. There must be economic growth. It seems to be so logical that who would dare think otherwise? But this chapter motivates you to think otherwise. Wait a minute, cows and grains? You see, not only did Nanda Maharaj give 2 million cows, completely decorated with cloth and jewels, in charity to the Brahmanas, he also gave them 7 hills of grain. 7 huge hills. It doesn't mean a mound of grain on the floor here. It means 7 huge hills of grains he gave away. And not only did he give away these massive hills of grains, but the hills were covered with cloth, decorated with gold and embroidery, and covered with jewels. So you may pass over this at first. Ooh, this is way out there. When you read it in Krishna book or when you read it in the Bhagavatam, you may just not let yourself be hit on the head with the full impact. But this is radical. What kind of day and age was this? And where are we now? It's amazing, as I often point out. We might think this is too much. This has got to be mythological. Whereas the persons back then being described in Bhagavatam, if they would hear about the way things are now, they would say, that's too much, mythological. How could human beings be so dumb? So mythology is in the eyes of the beholder. So Nanda Maharaj gave 2 million cows, decorated with cloth and jewels. He gave the Brahmanas 7 huge hills of grain, and the hills were covered with cloth decorated with golden embroidery, covered with jewels. We talked about the cows with silver hooves and golden horns. So Nanda Maharaj's concern is joy as well as purification. Who is concerned with purification these days? I've got to purify my life. Sounds so strange, doesn't it? To contaminated ears. My house needs purification. My family needs purification. My body needs purification. My mind needs to be needs purification. It sounds so like something from the Victorian age or something. But this is real human culture. Purify the consciousness for higher experience, higher realization, higher knowledge. So Nanda Maharaj, as we said, is not thinking, in my home is the supreme pure. He's thinking, in my home is my son. I've got a son. And I want to arrange all facilities, all possible perks and facilities for the well-being of my son. Brahmins, chant your mantras. I'll give 2 million cows in charity. Worship the ancestors, worship the demigods, all for my son Krishna. This is pure love. Nothing selfish for him, for Nanda Maharaj. Everything is for Krishna, 100%. So there's a whole system of celebration involving so much culture and art. So what's going on in this Jata Karma birth ceremony? The Brahmanas are reciting auspicious Vedic hymns which purify the environment by their vibration. And then they have others called suttas who are experts in reciting old histories like the Puranas. That's their art. To make for a greater auspiciousness at the celebration, the suttas recite old histories that are instructive. And then there are another group of glorifiers called Magadhas, and they recite the histories of past royal families. Because when there is a proper system of family development, family lines, generation after generation can produce high quality children. And those high quality children have high quality children in the future. And so in this way, there is actually glory to be talked about and celebrated. So the suttas recite the Puranic histories, and the Magadhas are experts in the histories of royal families. And then there is another group of artisans called the Vandis, and they recite glorifications, praises in general, according to the particular situation. So that's all going on. Big art festival. But what about music? There are singers specializing in singing. There are musicians specializing in playing drums, and it's all going on, a huge gala event. All for the glorification of Krishna. One interesting point is that in terms of the music, all the instruments played continuously. They wouldn't stop because they were too blissed out. They couldn't stop. They was playing nonstop, beating drums with both hands on the ends of the drums, beating both hands simultaneously. They couldn't get enough, just on and on and on and on. So next, you get a description of the decorations in Brajapur, the village of Nanda Maharaj. All the decorations, festoons, flags, gates made with varieties of flower garlands, mango leaves, courtyards, the gates near the roads, everything within the rooms of the houses, perfectly cleansed. The doors, the yards, the interiors were first scrubbed and then sprinkled with sandalwood and flower-scented water. Can we do that here? Scrub everything inside here and sprinkle sandalwood and flower-scented water. The doors were decorated with colorful flags, and there were 3 types of gates. One type made from garlands, another type made from cloth, another type made from mango leaves. Everything natural and opulent. All for the glorification of Krishna's appearance. We'll stop here and see if you maybe have some questions. Yes.
Thank you, Maharaj, so much. I had just a little question. You said that there were 2 babies that appeared, right?
I knew I was going to get it. It is confidential. It's there in Bhagavatam. You have not read 10th Canto? All right. It's there. Krishna took birth, as I explained carefully, simultaneously from Devaki and Yashoda. But it's, you see, you want to go, how deep do you want to go?
I just want to know why the other baby was not celebrated.
Which other baby?
Like, didn't you say there was like, Mama Yashoda gave birth to a boy and a girl, and then they switched the girl to the boy, but she still had the boy left, right? That she had, or no?
Well, the Vasudeva Krishna brought from Mathura merged into the son of Yashoda.
So she just had one.
Huh?
It was just one actual baby.
No, she had 2. She didn't know it. So Vasudeva didn't notice that there was a boy there. And he took the girl. Got it now?
Oh, I see. I thought that she had 2 babies and he switched one.
Huh? She had to, but she didn't know it. She was too tired from childbirth. But that's the confidential understanding. So no one will criticize you for saying that Krishna was born from Devaki and Vasudeva brought him to Vrindavan, to Braj. It's all right. There's just always these deeper and deeper layers. You're dealing with Krishna. You're thinking, why does it have to be so complex? Well, you have to ask Krishna. Why are you doing it like that? Krishna knows how to arrange the best pastimes, all for the pleasure of the devotees and him. So think about that. Yes.
Really, thank you for guiding us towards Raja Bhakti with these lecture videos. You said that Mahamaya protects Krishna from the botheration of unqualified participants.
Yes, Mahamaya is a division of Yogamaya. For the devotees in Krishna Lila, Yogamaya deals with them. But for non-devotees, that's Mahamaya. Just like Kamsa, he's dealing with Mahamaya. When he bursts into the birthing room, he's heard from his soldiers that Devaki has given birth. He rushes in there, grabs the little girl, which actually had been brought by Vasudeva from Vrindavan, grabs the little girl by her ankles and tries to smash her head against the wall. He's dealing with Mahamaya, not Yogamaya. Yogamaya doesn't deal with non-devotees. So you know what happened. He grabbed the little newborn girl by the ankles and tried to smash her head against the stone walls of the prison, and she just as easily escapes his grip, flies up in the air and says, "You fool. The child you're after is born somewhere else." And what is Kamsa's reaction? This is Durga Devi. I can't believe it. It's Durga Devi. Because materialists worship Durga Devi. That's who he's seeing. He's not seeing Yogamaya. Yes.
We were thinking about when Vasudeva was crossing Yamuna and Krishna slipped up from his hands, and then you explained that Krishna would like to increase.
Would like to what?
Would like to increase the love of the.
Krishna's always trying to increase our love.
But what about distress given to devotee while Krishna trying to increase the love?
Here's the example given by the acharyas, and think about it. Most children don't want to go to school, and it seems like their parents are putting them into stress by enrolling them in school. So it looks like distress, but actually it's for the child's benefit. I remember when I was going to the first grade, first year in school. I'd already done kindergarten. I was a troublemaker. It was boring for me. I would take the desks and put them on top of my head and all sorts of things and cause a disturbance. So then it's time to go to first grade. And the neighbors had a carpool. All the neighbors would alternate driving their kids to school. Driving not only their kids, but whoever's part of the carpool. So I remember to this day sitting on my neighbor's lap, next door neighbor's lap, while her husband was driving the car, and the back seat was packed with kids. And so I had it all worked out in my mind, what I was going to say when I got the first glimpse in my life of this school I was supposed to go to. So I had my lines memorized. And as soon as I saw the school, I said, "This is the school I do not like." And he said it so seriously, like it's very weighty and very profound. "This is the school I do not like." Who takes me seriously? Who would take me seriously? And actually, I liked going to school, it turned out. It's called Grace Lutheran Christian Day School. There were just 5 persons in my grade, that's all. So anyway, I turned out to like it. So you might say that this is the parents causing the child distress, right? I remember another funny incident. This is when I was, how old? Oh, maybe 14. And so I had spent the summer at some elitist boarding school in New Hampshire, Phillips Exeter Academy, getting prepared for the normal school term. So I met some girls there. And so after I came home from the summer there, going to summer school, I got a letter from one of the girls. I was 14 years old. You get a letter from a girl. She was writing lyrics from various popular songs. "Let's be together in any kind of weather." I was, ooh. So I took the letter and I carefully put it on top of my wardrobe closet in my room. You know, one of those big wardrobe closets, that big pieces of furniture. I put it on top, knowing that my mother would never find it there. And then every day I would check on the letter. "Let's be together," any kind of. And I put the letter back on top. One day I noticed the letter wasn't in exactly the spot where I left it on top of the wardrobe cabinet. And I knew, mother. Who else tries to clean on top of wardrobe cabinets? Only mothers. So I said to my mother, "Did you read my letter?" She said, "No, I don't know what you're talking about. Did you read my letter?" No. Later she admitted that she had read it. Told me, she said, "I learned my lesson. I'll never lie to my child again." But was she right or was she wrong? She was looking out for her son. She always said, "Look, we have an interest in anyone you're associating with. We want to check them out first. We want to check out their family background, their education." Then she would call her brother, my uncle. He was a real firm, heavy guy. He had gone to Wharton School of Finance, University of Pennsylvania. So, "Nephew, let me tell you one thing about this family. Our family believes in good genes." "We want to know any girls that you're associating with, we want to check them out. Our family believes in good genes." So I thought, this is so tyrannical. Here I am, a 14-year-old, knowing everything, and mother has snooped on me. Of course, now I thank her for that. And she laments, "Oh, I did my job too well. You never married." So there's another example of what you might call distress is actually beneficial. So what you accuse Krishna of, why did you slip out of Vasudev's grip just to cause him anxiety? But Krishna knows how to produce the best love. And everyone says they want love. All you need is love. Love makes the world go round, but they have no idea how to produce real love, where Krishna is the expert at that. We're like little children. I don't want to go to school, I'll be happy. Just like me saying so profoundly, this is the school I do not like. What do I know? And you would immediately say that, right? What did you know at 5 years old? So for me, it was distress. But from the view of the superior, it's for my benefit. And I did, from the very beginning, I did love to go to school. But my immediate reaction was, as a 5-year-old, no, I'm going to hate this. Anything else? Yes. You have to speak louder, James. Prabhu.
Krishna, thank you for the class. I'm trying to conceptualize something that you mentioned earlier regarding, you said Vrindavan Dham is a spiritual embassy.
Yes.
So when you said, like, when you were mentioning the verse about the 2 million cows, I do remember in Warka Lila
Mm.
about the tens of thousands of palaces.
Yes.
Now,
16,000.
60,000 palaces, yes.
Mm.
So, I'm trying to conceptualize. You also said that Krishna's yoga maya potency, he doesn't want like his cowherd boyfriends or to know that he is the supreme personality of Godhead.
Ruins the fun.
Yeah, ruins the fun. So, is that the yoga maya potency that's completely spread throughout Vrindavan, Dwarka, Leela? It's like people are walking around like and they see, oh, Krishna's here. Krishna is in this other palace as well. You know, it's like, you know, the 2 million cows, for example, is it like something that, you know, in this time, it's not something that's questioned. It's just like, you know,
I'm trying to get at what you're asking.
like the 2 million cows, right?
All right, let's start. You mentioned the 16,000 palaces, right?
Yes.
Your question should be, why did Krishna stop there at 16,000?
No, I'm
No, but think about it.
good point.
Yes.
Yeah,
If you say Krishna had 16,108 wives, your question, the next question should be, why did he stop? Why not 16 billion, 16 trillion? There's no limitation to Krishna and what he does. So, knowing that, now what?
yeah, I'm trying to conceptualize because the like I don't know, when I read the pastimes, I try to like teleport myself there. I don't know why.
But your teleportation involves time and space.
Exactly.
And Krishna is beyond time and space. Time and space are his energies.
I know,
Huh?
it's just so interesting.
It is. What, you're reading Chaitanya Charitamrita? Remember the chapter in Madhya Lila, the opulence and sweetness of Krishna? Lord Chaitanya is explaining to Sanatana Goswami. Read it again. I think it's chapter 21, the opulence and sweetness of Krishna. Lord Chaitanya explains about the opulence. And then, while talking about the opulence, he becomes overwhelmed by the sweetness of Krishna and begins to talk about the sweetness of Vrindavan. So you see those two aspects there. One is called the Aishvarya, opulence. That's Dwarka Dham. The other is sweetness, Vrindavan Dham. And Mathura is in the middle. Yes.
I'm actually a little curious, piggybacking off this question. Like sometimes Krishna shows off little snippets of like
Shows whom?
The residents of Goloka Vrindavan, like when his mother looked in his mouth and she saw.
That's Boma Vrindavan, earthly Vrindavan. There's actually no difference. Set and so
Why does he show that stuff off if it's a risk that they might see that he's God and perhaps.
you have to ask him. He does everything for pleasure. They get glimpses and he covers them over. Just like when Mother Yashoda looks into his mouth, she starts philosophically speculating, metaphysical speculation. Who is this? Who am I? Am I dreaming? Am I sick? No. I'm awake. I'm in good health. Why am I seeing all this? And then Krishna covers her over with his Yogamaya. Because Krishna thinks, if you're going to metaphysically speculate, who's going to feed me? So he didn't want Mother Yashoda to go on with that kind of speculation. But she got a peek. And in that way, we also get a peek. And Krishna expands his Yogamaya potency, and she says, oh, never mind all this thinking. He's my son. Let me hug him. That's what Krishna wants. He knows how to get the best hugs. He knows how to get the best vatsalya prem, parental love. For himself and for Mother Yashoda. You don't want to see my inconceivable glories. You just want to feed me. Yes.
You mentioned that Yoga Maya doesn't deal with non-devotees.
Right.
So how can we be under Yoga Maya instead of Mahamaya?
That's why in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Mahatmanas tumam parta daivim prakritim ashritaha bhajantya nanya manaso gyatra bhutaram avyayam. The great souls, the Mahatmas, are under the influence of my internal potency. And what's the symptom that they're under the influence of the internal potency? The next verse. Satatam kirtayanto mam. Always chanting my glories. Always engaged in devotional service. That's the symptom of someone who's operating under the influence of the internal potency. Now, in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna does say, as I quoted earlier, Yogamaya Samavrita, Naham Prakasha Sarvasha. I'm not manifest to everyone. I'm covered by my Yogamaya potency. You have to drill down because Yogamaya includes Mahamaya as a sub-department. Mahamaya is a division or a department of Yogamaya. Because for Krishna, everything is spiritual. But you see material. But for Krishna, it's all spiritual. The example given, the engineer in the power plant just sees electricity, electric energy going out. Now, some people can take the electrical energy and power an air conditioner. Others can power a heater. But to the engineer in the power plant, it's all electric. It's all electricity. So for Krishna, all his energies are spiritual. But you see material because you don't see the connection between the energy and the energetic source. What do you think of that?
Try to meditate on that.
All right. Krishna has multifarious energies. To him, they're all spiritual. Krishna can turn spirit into matter and matter into spirit. Because it's all his energy. But he asks you in Bhagavad Gita to see the difference. Therefore, he explains he has a superior energy and an inferior energy. He asks you to see the difference. But for Krishna, it's all spiritual, it's all superior. All right? Anything else? Yes.
Why does Krishna only marry 16,000 wives? Why not more?
You have to ask him. You want to criticize him for being lusty, you have to criticize him properly. He's unlimitedly lusty. He has unlimited desires and the unlimited ability to satisfy all of his unlimited desires. You know the question I always ask at outreach programs. How many desires can you name that you have? What do you say, Nama Madhurya? How many, can you start counting? No, it's actually not too many. Not at all. It's hard getting up to 10. When you get past 5, it starts to get harder. Then you start thinking, well, I want world peace, I want environmental upliftment, this, that, the other. You get more broad and generic as you go from 5 and try to get up to 10. But most persons can't get past 10.
Matter of priorities.
Huh?
I suppose it's a matter of priorities.
What do you mean?
You want to try and have you want to try and purify your desires to have your priorities, your desires being as closely connected to Krishna as possible. Or at least for most people as closely connected to things they know are good, like everyone wants to have a happy family.
Still, my point is, and I've done this all over the world, they have difficulty getting up to 10. When they get past 7 or 6, it's like world peace, economic prosperity, self-sustaining, this or that or the other. They strain to get up to 10, whereas Krishna has unlimited desires and the unlimited ability to satisfy all of his unlimited desires. That is inconceivable. This is much deeper than saying God is the creator, God's the maintainer who gives the daily bread, or he's zapping sinners when he's angry. What is attractive about that? Very minimally attractive. But to understand Krishna as a supreme enjoyer, oh, Krishna does all the things we'd want to do, but unlimitedly, infinitely, with not the slightest problem. And what happens when we try to enjoy with our little teeny-weeny self? Problems. So, when you're taking rest tonight, think of Nanda Maharaj and his gorgeous, huge birth celebration for his son Krishna. The opulence. Just by taking care of cows. All right, thank you very much. Hare Krishna.